I am going to go to Kenny in Tennessee, who's having difficulty fitting into the society that they're in, or he is in, due to religious differences. So Kenny, what's up, man? You are on with Jimmy and Jamie.
Hey, Jimmy and Jamie.
Hey.
I'm very glad to be talking to you. I've been watching your show along with... I'm sorry?
I said, we are glad to have you calling. What's going on?
Oh, I heard that promo that you just talked about, Jimmy, online maybe, and I am a fish out of water in this city I live in Tennessee, but in a way that's very different from most of your callers. In fact, I've never heard a caller that has my point of view. So strap in, it's going to be weird. I am
okay.
I'm definitely not a believer in any religion at all. With the exception of Buddhism. Buddhism is practical rather than worshiping Buddha or someone else. Buddhism is a way of living life that is different from the recommendations of any other religion. And it's the only form of religion, I hate calling it a religion, but it's the only form that I find semi-acceptable. I have to say semi because I haven't read much Buddhist literature. I just know the basic ideas, and they make a lot more sense than any other quote-unquote religion I've ever been exposed to. And that means I'm not a Christian. I'm a recovering Methodist. I was indoctrinated from age 0 to 21 when I got out of the house and went to graduate school. Mm. And I have been deconstructing ever since I was 21 years old. Only in the last 10 years have I would say, fully deconstructed. I'm just holding that one Buddhist thing as something to consider in detail later on. I don't know whether there is this thing called God, which is a word I despise, but I do know that I don't believe the Bible at all, with the exception of some of the claimed quotes from Jesus. Some of them are very wise, and then he says other stuff that's really hard to believe. So when you boil the Bible down to what I think is true in it, you'll find scattered truisms in the Old Testament, and you'll find pretty fake stories about Jesus in the New Testament. In other words, I think it's mythology. I think all religions are just a form of mythology. And we have to come to terms with that. You can't live your life depending on something that turns out to be a myth. At least I can't do that.
All right.
So I have been deconstructing.
Okay. I want to get to the point of your call, but so real quick, what is it that makes it so difficult? So I understand you came out of Methodism, right? Or Methodist Christianity, and then you kind of found your niche in Buddhism. But what is it about your unique...
not really.
Well, you're holding on to Buddhism, right? Like you said that.
Well, I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it aside for the moment.
Okay.
I'm not going to rule on Buddhism right now because I don't know enough about it.
All right. So what is it
that... It's the only so-called religion that makes any sense.
But what is it about your experience right now that caused you to call in response to the promo? Like you're having a hard time fitting into your society or your family. What's the experience about there?
Yeah. Well, as I've described my beliefs partially, I've described something that no theist or Christian would ever accept. And I live in a city, the city I was born in. I left at age 21 and found myself back here at age 55 because the world had destroyed me.
Okay.
I hate this world. I hate religion. I hate what people do to each other in the name of religion. And I hate the bullshit beliefs they pull out of it.
All right, well...
I'm surrounded by people who are the opposite. I can't make friends here because I don't want to know these people.
I get it. I think a lot of us go through that. And you know what, Kenny, I know for a fact that you are not following a unique experience, if you will, because a lot of people get out of their Christian upbringing or their religious upbringing altogether, and they find something else to hinge themselves onto because they are so used to adhering to a dogma. And it's very common for people to come out of Christianity and find Buddhism or find Hinduism, because it's an Eastern religion. It's different. It takes them away from the thing that they have grown up with, that they had forced upon them, but they no longer agree with. And so it's logical for many people to say, well, here's this other thing that makes sense. It's a way for me to live my life with some kind of structure, some kind of principles, some core values, and it doesn't cause me to adhere to a violent, fictional character, right? Which is what most of us experience when we come out of religion. I grew up in the Lutheran faith. We were cultural Christians, and we went to church on Sundays, and that was kind of it. I mean, there was nothing else happening. But when I was in those Sunday school classes, I was learning that Jews go to hell, that when an abortion clinic is shot up or blown up, it's probably the work of God. Homosexuals go to hell, you name it. My parents didn't really know what I was being taught, and I grew up and found out, like, hey man, I'm full of so much more love. Don't ask some of the people who make comments about me in some of the shows, because they kind of don't feel like I'm very loving sometimes. No, just kidding. I appreciate the viewership and the comments, but anyway, I'm full of so much more love. I don't align with those things. I bet you that there are more networks of people around you that feel the way that you do, that you're not really sure of. And I would encourage you to try and find those.
Of them.
Pardon me?
I'm not aware of any such groups. Can you?
Yeah, so
I'm pretty sure that host and friend of the show, Secularity, is a Tennessee native himself, and runs events for around not just theism and atheism, but around philosophy as well. So you might want to look up, Secularity Tennessee events. I don't know how my geography of the United States is sketchy at best, so I don't know exactly how far away you'd be, and I don't know what city you're in and what.
That's true for Americans too.
He's in. It's just big. It's just really big. But what I would say is that it is completely understandable to have this kind of fury, because one of the biggest things about being brought up religious, and I'm thankfully was spared most of it, but I've seen it, is that you have been lied to. Maybe not on purpose. Maybe some people were just spreading lies to you out of what they thought was the goodness of their hearts, to teach you what they thought were good lessons. And treating things like the Bible and Buddhism, things more of as a philosophy and mysticism, like mythicism, with parables and fables you can take lessons from. I think that's a very healthy way to approach the book. Like I say, my startup this episode was, let's follow the word of Jesus and love our neighbour. You don't have to believe in his divinity to think that those words have merit. And so right. I would say, try and find community, maybe not in person in your actual virtual in your surroundings, but we've got a Discord, the ACA, you can join that. You might see me on there. There's plenty of others as well. You can definitely find your tribe in this sort of interconnected world that we have. But maybe you want to start, if you want to actually do something in person, start by looking at what SR does in Tennessee.
That makes sense. I've seen Secularity several times.
And I've just got a note.
The way he puts things together.
Sorry, I just got a note in from our crew. You might want to try Nashville Nuns and Clarksville Atheists as a starting point as well. There's two groups there.
Yeah, and that's nuns, Nones. Not it's not like a funny play on words. It's that's.
No, I know.
So meetup.com. I don't know if you've ever been on there. Might have some groups that you want to get in. I'm in New York, and I know that New York has several New York City atheists, Westchester County, Long Island, all over the tri-state area. There are atheist meetup groups where people get together and they meet in person and virtually. I guarantee you that Nashville will have that. In fact, Jamie just read you Jamie just read you 2 groups that you could check out. But definitely stay tuned into our shows, especially the Atheist Experience, if you want to talk to or get some tips from Secular Rarity. Also, somebody else, one of our hosts who is a regular, I don't know if you're familiar with our show, The Nonprofits, but is also a host on Truth Wanted, is Kelly Laughlin. And when Kelly came out of Christianity, Kelly took a similar venture that you did by going to Hinduism and then Buddhism and then finally calling himself an atheist. Excuse me. So yeah, if your struggle is not having a society that you can that will welcome you, I think that just a little bit of digging will yield some really good results.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about Buddhism itself, next week Richard is hosting, and he's going to have a Buddhist call in, and they're going to discuss it. And Richard, he lives and breathes Buddhism. The man has forgotten more about that religious philosophy than most of us will ever know. So he's kind of our resident expert.
Oh, I see. Well, those are all good suggestions.
Yeah. Hey,
I can
Kenny,
take it down to the individual level, though. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to encourage you, like, man, I know that it's easy to look to our past and look at the world around us and be angry. And it's, we're all angry in some way, but my suggestion would be maybe approach things a little bit more delicately. If you're looking to make community, approaching people with hate, like you were saying before, like you hate this world. I feel for you, man. Like I hope that you find some way to enjoy the short life that we have, for however much you have left on this earth. I don't have much left. Well, I hope that you find a way to, enjoy the rest of it, to make the best of it, and to find some people that you can call your tribe, like Jamie and I have done. Yeah. Because Jamie's my tribe, and we're hundreds of miles away from each other. We see each other once a year. Yeah. But he's still my brethren. You know what I mean? And so that could be an experience that you have as well. But go ahead.
Here's the thing about those negative emotions, about the fury and the hatred. They're actually close cousins to similar emotions that are far more constructive. Passion, righteous indignation, a will to change. That's that which is around you. So if you can't tamp down on that fury, change it into righteous indignation, point it, focus it, hone it, use it, find a cause, fight for the cause. Try and make the world a little bit of a better place, because whether you've got 5 years, 15 years, 5 days left on this planet, you can make the world a better place by tiny degrees. All it takes is a kind word to a stranger. All it takes is standing up to a bully. All it takes is having a set of principles, putting your line in the sand and saying, this far, no further. And if you live in that way, you can make every day at least somewhat productive, at least somewhat worthy of the next breath you take, the next step you take, the next meal you eat. Please don't give up on yourself, man. And thank you very much for calling in.
Well, Kenny had one thing. Nice. Kenny had one thing he wanted to add, and I'm sorry we cut you off. I think we're just super enthusiastic about helping you find the things you need. But you had something you wanted to say.
Oh, you are, yes. That was so far back that I'm not sure I could pull it up.
Yeah, you said breaking it down to the individual level.
Oh yeah, like my next door neighbor who's now crippled because he's had work accidents. He's no longer a threat, but he thinks he's a Christian, and he's one of the worst people on the planet.
Well, that's characteristic.
With the political turmoil that we're headed for, he's dedicated totally to Trump, and I just don't want to be anywhere near him, but he's right next door to me. And this is the kind of real life considerations. When you live in the South, but your heart is not in it, then you have a constant battle trying to protect your own beliefs from things you've already shown yourself are bullshit. And people around me all believe those bullshit things.
I'll liken this to some training that we get in the military, which is it comes from the code of conduct. And The code of conduct are principles that help you resist when you're in tough times or when you're in captivity. And the main theme of that is small victories. Small victories and resist wherever possible. So, if I'm being held captive, if I could sneak, if I'm not supposed to have any paraphernalia, but I can successfully sneak a toothpick into my barracks, man, I have just resisted. I've had a small victory, right? So I'm not asking you to walk into the state capitol and expect them to change their minds based on the way that you feel. But I am expecting you to stay in line with your principles. Where an opportunity presents for you to stand your ground and maintain your dignity, then do that. But don't drive yourself crazy trying to change everybody around you. It's especially where you're in. So we are going to get to some other calls, Kenny. I really appreciate you tuning in. I want to read a super chat that came from our good friend Nero. She sends $5. Nero says, Kenny, I am in Tennessee as well. And if you find me on Discord, I am the lone atheist around my town. I offer to build a bridge, draw a screaming sun, J&J. Oh, she's talking to me. Draw a screaming sun. That's for the super chat challenge. Don't worry about that, Kenny. That's for me.
Okay.
But anyway, so if you're not familiar with Discord, I advise you to go search Google and find Discord and set yourself up with an account, and then find the Atheist Community of Austin, and there's a network for you there. Okay.
Yep. Tiny.cc / ACD Discord, I believe.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Tiny.cc / ACD Discord, I believe, is the link. And so once you've got yourself a Discord profile, hit there. You'll find us there. You'll find Nero there. And I'm hearing a lot of frustration in your voice. If you can't find a solution, finding catharsis is a good one. If you can't solve a problem, finding a bunch of people who are happy to listen to you complain about it, definitely useful. And we are definitely down for that.
That's why I called.
All right. Kenny, thank you so much.
Great points.
Thank you so much for your call. Chin up, brother, and keep going. So